Hi, I'm just going to go through assessment 3 and look over what you're expected to do, but link it back to assessment 2 as well. So in this assessment item, you're looking at designing a clinical practice change. And so you have to sort of think about what was your practice change idea from assessment 2? Are you going to continue on with that one? Or you can, if needed, decide on another one. But the whole purpose of the 3 assessment items was that you built one to the next one and then presented this management plan. So with what we're going to actually present is a management change plan. So you've completed your environmental analysis and you may have explored different aspects. You may have sort of done observation, general feedback. You might have looked at staff mix and patient outcomes, complaints. You might have looked at sort of, the annual monitoring in relation to a particular aspect that's completed on your ward, IV changes, central line dressings, etc. And what you need to think about now is what framework did you use and what did you find? So then as you're looking at actually completing assessment 3, you need to think about what is your current practice, what is best practice, and what are the frameworks that can support this practice change. And that's how you justify your practice change. So when you're developing your change management plan, the first aspect is to discuss and justify your practice change and why you want to implement this in your area. Bring your clinical recommendations from assessment 2. Look at the types of frameworks that you might use, which are change management frameworks now, not audit frameworks. And make sure it suits your idea. So if you're looking at staff, think about a change management framework which looks about self-empowerment, staff empowerment. If you're looking at a practice change in relation to maybe dressing changes or patient positions, then you use one which is a clinical focus, maybe sort of about clinical decision making. So bring your discussion of your plan. So what you want to do is write the outline sort of from the criteria. Think about what research you might need to support this. And then remember about your word count, 1,000 words, about 4 paragraphs. So outline it and so sort of look at how you're going to present this. So you're designing your change management plan using a framework. Make sure this links to your practice change and your advanced practice nurse. So look at that stakeholder involvement and their contribution to this practice change. Are they a barrier, an enabler? Look at a timeline that is achievable in your clinical area and present this on a Gantt chart. It's the simplest way to do it. So think about how long it might take to engage the staff, how long it might take to present in services, and if you're sort of what you are changing, if it's looking at sort of a staff change, how long it takes to maybe educate and change and then sustain that change. Look at the legal and ethical influences that you may be in your change. So, do you need to have support from the organisation? What other ethical influences are needed, may influence your change, or maybe sort of that you're looking at an ethical consideration to actually improve this change. Also, we need you to include minority group concerns. So this may mean in relation to if it's staffing, as there's sort of a minority group in your staff which may not understand, or you may have to look at the culturally appropriate way to inform that. So if it's looking at bare below the elbows, what way can we make sure that's culturally correct? If it's in relation to an actual patient situation, do you have a minority group in your patient group that may need to have particular concerns in relation to health literacy level, patient support, links to other support areas considered? So in that last part of this assignment is looking at this evaluation. So think about how you're going to evaluate. If you thought of this in the first part, it does make it a lot easier. So how is your change being sustained? Can you measure that sustained change? And again, research to support your ideas. So you want to propose a method to evaluate your plan. Really important. A lot of people actually run out of words here, and so it's important to make sure you've left enough words to propose a method that's appropriate to evaluate your change and look at the ways of sustaining it. So if it's an educational change, how are you measuring that in your registered nurses? How are you sustaining that? And looking at sort of involving theories about change management and change practice to sort of look at that way you are changing this practice, and then you can evaluate using that same framework. And you may sort of really need to sort of think about research to evaluate and justify this change. So overall, we're looking at your other aspects presented in this assessment are your introduction and conclusion. So ensure that you've got those in your word count, but also throughout the essay that you're using that critical aspect of research to make sure you're presenting best practice to support your change management plan. You can use headings in this assessment task. It does make it easier for us to sort of identify which area you're talking about, but also sort of you yourself know that you're covering the different areas. So thank you and best wishes as you move through this, and really think about presenting an idea that would be useful for your clinical area, so then you can actually present it back to your ward area and change this practice. Thank you.